As Michigan's most powerful and influential voice for business, the Michigan Chamber of Commerce stands ready to serve you. Go to mychamber.com, that's MICHAMBER.com, to learn more now.
So, first and foremost, Ramadan is a time for what you see. It's a time for coming together. It's a time to support each other. It's a time to let go of bitterness and animosity and just come together as a community and do something positive for the community. And this is what you're seeing here.
It's a Friday in April. There are dozens of tents with smoke floating toward the midnight sky, and there's faces filled with elation.
A lot of people, different people, nice people, cultures I've seen different kind of food that I never had before. People getting together that haven't seen each other since last year. Meeting up here, I guess it's like the meetup spot.
The event is the Ramadan Suhoor Festival in Dearborn. Ramadan is Islam's holy month commemorating the first revelations of the Quran. It's a month of reflection. It's also a time when Muslims fast from sunrise to sunset. The festival serves as a place to get a final meal ahead of a day's fasting on the weekend. If there's any indication of just how beloved this event is, it's the sheer size of it. Thousands attend, and after a COVID hiatus, it took place this year for the first time in the old Sears parking lot of the Fairlane Town Center mall. It's in the heart of the city, not too far from the Henry Ford Museum, the Ford Motor Company headquarters, and a Beaumont hospital.
It's a lot more spacious, and there's a lot more, vendors.
Dearborn being like the largest Muslim population, in the United States, kind of makes it special. This is in the heart of Dearborn, where everyone can kind of come together and put Dearborn on venue for its great food, its great community, great culture.
The choice of location is about more than the crowd, however. It's an example of how the mall has expanded its reach in order to stay relevant as other malls become empty echo chambers.
Yeah, at Fairlane Mall, which is, has historically, not like it used to be nice, and then it went downhill, so it's kind of reviving this area as well.
It used to be bumping Fairlane, but we kind of outgrew it and we kind of abandoned it.
Once you bring in the community and you show them that you appreciate them, they're going to shop here more. They're going to be coming here a lot more.
On this week's episode, we take a look at the fall of malls in Metro Detroit. And with the announced sale of Fairlane this week to a Dallas-based real estate firm, we explore the future of malls, how some are continuing to adapt and lean into their communities. I'm Kerry Jr. II, and this is On the Line.
My job aspects day to day is overseeing the entire property.
That's Dan Fayad, General Manager of Fairlane Town Center.
It's maintenance, upkeep, leases from small shop to big national retailers.
We spoke with Dan before the big news broke Wednesday that Centennial Firm had closed on their purchase of Fairlane Mall.
Community engagement with local officials and different organizations and nonprofits. And as well as overseeing security housekeeping.
We hoped to learn a little bit about what the mall's been up to lately and try to get a sneak peek of their future. So you're familiar with Fairlane in your neighborhood all your life?
Correct.
So what has Fairlane been like for you just growing up in Dearborn? What has it meant for the Dearborn community?
Fairlane, to be honest with you, has a bad stigma, in my opinion. People still remember the old days, the early 2000s when there was fighting and all the ruckus that was going on around here. But that was a bad time for everywhere in the nation, right? It was during the recession and everyone was down. That's why I always ask people. People are always like, when I took the job here, and they're like, I can't believe you're really doing that. They're like, it's Fairlane. It's in receivership. It's a dying mall.
The mall dates back to 1976. It was in receivership at the time of its sale this week, meaning a court-appointed person took control to repay debts, kind of like an emergency manager. But Fayad told us that sales had been increasing for tenants even during COVID. The mall's got 3 floors, and according to the city of Dearborn, it had 125 stores and an 83% occupancy rate in February. Fayad's pretty invested in it.
So at Fairlane itself, I started in October of last year, so 6 months. So my story but as the property, I've been attached to the property for 10 years. I started here about 11 years ago when I was 19 years old as a security officer.
And so, I too even shopped at Fairlane when I was younger. I mean, let's say it was about 10, maybe 12 or so years ago, I would go there. I wasn't frequent enough to know about the stigma around that time, but I've heard the same things from some residents of Dearborn who've spoken about the same kind of issues that Fairlane used to have. Can you just take me through a brief timeline over 10 years? What are the changes that Fairlane has gone through since the 2010s up until now?
I would say a lot of it has to do with just people growing up and the different generations we're going in, right? So now everyone's more on like social media and going different places, right? And also what I would say was also a big change is the development of downtown Detroit and the different activities you can do. So I think that not like Fairlane was the only place people can go to back in the day, right? That's closest to the inner city. And that's what everyone did. It became
you're right. We didn't go downtown, but I'm sorry, continue.
Yeah, but now, I mean, every weekend, everyone's downtown, right? With the shops and on Woodward and all that stuff that's happening down there.
Of course, that's not all that's changed. There's been some good and bad.
I'd say the source of all these problems for malls is online shopping. People just don't go and hang out and buy a lot of stuff at the malls like they did back in 1995.
That's Free Press business reporter JC Reindl.
I have a wide-ranging beat, everything from residential development to the housing market to shopping malls to car insurance.
Shopping malls, that's what we're going to be talking about today. What is the current state of shopping malls, and then how did we get here?
I think there's been a big shaking out of shopping malls that we're going to see continue as years go by. Right now, we have some shopping malls still left in the region, and they're hanging on. We have Somerset at the very top of the food chain, and they have been losing some tenants, and then other malls have closed in recent years. We've had Northland Mall, which is rest in peace, that closed about 7 years ago, and we had Eastland Mall that closed very early this year, and some other malls in the region that are visibly struggling. There may be a couple malls that do exist a decade or two from now, most likely fewer than we have right now. I think that's a given. And some of the malls that are still existing are trying to reinvent themselves.
So which malls are trying to reinvent themselves?
Oakland Mall is a good example. They have a new owner. He's a very young guy. I believe he's 31 years old. And he had a big press conference, and there's a lot of excitement. He kind of said all the right things when it comes to wanting to reimagine the mall. The big question, though, is where he's going to get the money to do this and why anyone would want to invest a lot of money into an asset like a shopping mall. So there are some skeptics out there, about what this young man can do for Oakland Mall, whether, his vision is going to come to pass. Time will tell.
We know that there's a transition at Fairlane Mall as well. What is that indicative of? What does that mean? Is it just part of the process with malls? They just shift owners, or is that part of the effect of what we're seeing with these trends in malls and retailing going online?
We have seen some malls where their owner will default on loans, and not accidentally. That's part of their plan. These are non-recourse loans, which means they can default and walk away. And we've seen that occur a few times with Northland and Eastland. And Eastland Mall out in Harper Woods, you had one owner that walked away some years ago. Then it was bought for a very cheap amount by a guy with a firm out in New York. And I think their playbook is to buy these really old malls to squeeze what they can in the final years of these malls. They do sell to a completely different type of owner, for the mall property, and an owner who wants to redevelop it, not to use it as a shopping mall anymore, but to tear it down and to redevelop it as a completely different purpose. We've seen that with Eastland. That's going to become some distributional warehouses, maybe some light industrial.
After the break, we get into the future of Fairlane and creative ways malls still work to draw retail customers, from Peppa Pig to live sharks.
As Michigan's leading statewide business advocacy organization, the Michigan Chamber of Commerce is on the job every day standing up for job providers in the legislative, political, and legal arenas. We are the unified voice of thousands of members who employ over 1 million Michiganders. We work with trade associations and local chambers of commerce of every size and kind in all 83 counties of the state. We know business in Michigan. Learn more today about how we can protect, connect, and strengthen your business. Whether that's advocating on your behalf at the Capitol, helping meet your informational, training, and networking needs, or boosting your bottom line visibility and voice, we're on the job for you. Make my chamber your chamber. Go to mychamber.com, that's MICHAMBER.com, to learn more now.
And we're back, talking with Free Press business reporter JC Reindl about some of the strategies existing malls use to attract customers. So we've been talking about the decline in malls and the circumstances that they're in currently, and then also the financial benefits, potential benefits for some people to buy a mall and use it for other things. But I'm curious, for those who want to keep a mall, what have you seen as practice to try and draw people back to that retail location?
Some strategies that have appeared to have success in bringing some life into these dying malls is you will demall part of the property, as in a store that may have been, deep inside the mall. You had to walk in to physically get to the store. Some of those stores have been moved from inside the mall to right outside. Macomb Mall was a good example. About 7 years ago, they have some big box retailers like a Dick's that are no longer in the mall. You just kind of pull up and it's there. And you do have some other stores that are no longer deep inside the mall. They're right out there by the parking lot.
As for Fairlane, in their announcement this week, Centennial said they envision a mixed-use future for the property. Centennial owns a dozen other enclosed malls in the U.S., and for Fairlane, they're looking to have some shopping, but also housing, possibly in the mall's extra parking lot space, and medical-related tenants.
I mean, we're just trying to become more lifestyle usage and just adapting.
Dan Fayad, the general manager at Fairlane, was already talking about the changes he was aiming for ahead of the sale closing news.
So nothing has been honestly set yet, and a lot is to come in the months, if not years. But there's going to be hopefully I hear a lot of positive change. I think we're trying to work hand in hand with the city and then develop in the neighboring stakeholders like U of M, Dearborn, and then Henry Ford, and then even the hospital, because everyone's around us.
It sounds like part of that future is this cultural programming that you have going on. How does that play into your broader vision of Fairlane Mall? Because when you think of a mall, you don't really think about a cultural fest necessarily.
Correct. Because once you bring in the community and you show them that you appreciate them, they're going to shop here more.
Now, Fairlane did start out as a mixed-use space with an ice rink, a monorail, and a theater when it first opened. There's still a theater, but more recently the mall leaned back into mixed use in 2016. The automaker isn't using it anymore, but Fairlane did lease more than 200,000 square feet of space to Ford Motor Company for office use.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense that you will have an office tenant that wants to get some cheap office space to go into a mall. Especially a mall where there is a big vacancy, especially post-COVID, where you may have a former office tenant and they just need a lot less space than that, and they want to be someplace that is convenient for their employees. Someplace they could maybe walk around during their lunch hour, go to the food court. So I would not be surprised if we see more examples of what Ford has done at Fairlane Mall with other office users around the region at other malls.
So you haven't seen that replicated anywhere else?
Yeah, I've not seen many examples of that aside from Ford going to Fairlane.
So the Ramadan Sahur Festival occurred last month in April, and the general manager of Fairlane Mall was telling me how they put that festival on for a couple reasons. One, to embrace the Muslim culture and food, but also as a step toward putting on more entertainment or events for the mall to draw more people there as customers. Have you seen that done by other malls?
Yeah, I think you might be onto something. Great Lakes Crossing Outlets in Auburn Hills is a good example of a mall that closed some stores and they brought in some entertainment attractions. They wanted to create new experiences to get that foot traffic in the mall. And they recently opened, right before COVID, a little discovery center there. We have a Legoland open in Great Lakes Crossing. We had an aquarium that was a big deal when that opened. I think one of the largest, one of, if not the largest aquarium in Michigan opened in Great Lakes Crossing. And that is probably the mall that gets the most gold stars for trying to reimagine, what the mall experience should be and trying to bring the foot traffic back in the mall.
Yeah, I mean, I think they should revive the mall itself with better options. Like the Foot Locker here is the best Foot Locker in Michigan, personally, I think.
Maybe if they open like hijabi stores or stuff like that, to make it for everyone.
I don't want to go to Somerset. I'd rather come here. You know what I'm saying? But also making this area more than just the mall.
What are the chances of getting more retail? Because when I spoke to folks, that's what they would like to see. They want to shop some more. Is that possible?
Possibilities. I mean, there's a million possibilities. It's just working with new ownership, the city, and then local ball players, and then figuring out a master plan for the future. But the mall itself, in my opinion, will be around forever. It's just be a enhanced mall with multiple uses.
Yeah, the future of retail is very much an open question. Right now, with everything has been going online, and one wonders, how much more everything could go online. There are definitely certain categories where people will always want to buy in person. A good example is groceries. A lot of people want to still shop in person. And I think there's a lot of other examples like that. Furniture. I think there's something to be said when you're shopping for an item like furniture. You want to see it. You want to sit on that sofa. You want to see the dresser. I know we have had, some increased attraction to some of the popular, smaller downtowns in Metro Detroit, like downtown Birmingham would be a good example of a downtown that has had some increased interest from unique retailers that want to set up an actual store there. They still feel the need to have an in-store experience for customers, especially for acquiring new customers. You need to have that serendipity.
I'm wondering just your thoughts about the idea of these entertainment draws to malls now, whether that be a cultural festival or that be an aquarium. It seems like there might be a new experience to what malls might be moving forward. Can you just speak to that?
Yeah, I think we're still going to see some popularity for malls that can offer novelty and offer a unique experience. We've seen that with Great Lakes Crossing. They have an aquarium there, this Peppa Pig world, Legoland. You can't get that anywhere else. Those are very unique attractions, a lot of novelty, and that is drawing people there. And I think, for younger generations, they may still, grow up with some memories of going to the mall, but it'll be more for this novelty and experience. But I think you're going to see less of a demand for just going to the mall simply to see what is new at Forever 21 or at Foot Locker.
JC, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Additional thank you to Dan Fayad for his time. He's the general manager of Fairlane Town Center. This episode was produced by me and Darcy Moran. Anjanette Delgado and Marianne Struman are our executive producers, and Peter Bhatia is our editor. The music for the show is called Fort Trumbull and was produced by DJ Lost Boy. Thanks again for listening. And if you like the show, please leave a rating and subscribe. Please share it with your friends and family. And don't forget to come back next week. See you then.